Hello and welcome back to Wrongmar. In today's SPHE lesson we take one final look at the water problems our Earth face. Our walt for today is to find some ways that we can try slow down water scarcity around the world. If I was to say to you that water is the single most important thing for humankind, would you agree? Pause the video and write down whether you agree or disagree and give me one reason why. Well, whether you like it or not, water is essential for human life. Water is the basis for all living things on Earth. With no water, there would be no life. Where there is water, there is life. It doesn't matter if the water is boiling hot or freezing cold, whether there's lots of it or only a very teensy amount of it. There is life where there is water. That's why scientists get so excited when they find out things like there's evidence of water on Mars. Now, we already know how water is a precious resource. We also know how we can conserve it and how we can reduce the amount at home. Pause the video and write down 2 ways that you could save water at home. We've also learned about bottled water and why it's not usually the best idea to buy an awful lot of it. But while conserving water at home is important, if we're being honest, it doesn't really directly help those people living in parts of the world where safe, clean water is scarce. You turning off a dripping tap isn't going to magically make water appear in a village somewhere around the world. So do you know of anything that people are doing to try and help these people in these areas? Pause the video and write down an answer. Well, the main groups that work with people in these areas are water charities. Many charities and non-governmental organisations, or NGOs, work around the world where water is scarce. What kind of things do you think these charities do in these areas? Pause the video and write down 2 things that they might do. Well, the NGOs, or charities, all have pretty similar aims. The first step is finding and contacting the people in the areas where water is scarce. Then they start to put together a plan of how best to help them. When they arrive in the area, they might start by digging wells and installing water pumps. They might also build some sanitary toilets and washing facilities. Another part of their work is educating people in water-scarce areas about hygiene and preventing illnesses. Sometimes they'll build water storage, rainwater capturing systems, so that the village has another way of getting clean water. The final step is probably one of the most important. Any good NGO or charity will keep in contact with the area they're helping. They'll visit and monitor the area so they make sure that their project is lasting and helpful. By conserving water at home and avoiding bottled water whenever we can do our little bit at home. But some people choose to do a bit more than just their little bit. There are lots of ways that you can get involved in charity work without actually going over to these villages and building the wells yourself. One thing that people can do is to organise a fundraiser. Fundraisers can collect large amounts of money for events that they take part in, like a fun run or maybe a sponsored walk. This money can be given to water charities that work with people in areas of water scarcity. Another thing that people can do is to campaign. They can volunteer for the charity, planning fundraising events or sharing information about the issue with normal people. And the final way that people can get involved is by becoming an activist. An activist might go to a demonstration or a protest to try and get the government to change laws and policies. Water scarcity is a huge issue in our world, and one that doesn't really get talked about as much as other issues. This map shows the areas around the world that have the biggest problems with water scarcity. And while Africa and Asia are big problem areas at the moment, take a look at this map that shows what it's going to look like in about 20 years' time. You can see if we continue to waste water like we do now, water scarcity is not going to be just an African and an Asian problem. You can see that all of Australia, all of the United States, and the south of Europe will all be affected by water scarcity in just 20 years' time. So what kind of conservationist are you going to become? Are you going to be a fundraiser, a campaigner, an activist? Or are you just going to do your little bit to try and help with water conservation? Our wolt for today was to find ways that we can try and slow down water scarcity problems around the world. We took a look at the work that some charities do on the ground and also ways that people back home can help support areas with water scarcity. That's all we have time for this week. Until next time, take care.